Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, DJ Youngs. It's been about a week. Was off for the holiday. Happy Easter, everyone. Belated Easter. Man, I'm glad to be back, though. It's been some time off. Some things that came out. Football world is still pretty much in the same place it was when we left off, though, as far as people getting signed, a few people getting traded. Little news, big news here or there. Depends on who you're a fan of and what you're interested in. Either way, you're in the right place, all right? Now, good morning. Good afternoon, good evening. As I always say, this is a podcast, so no telling when or where you are listening to this at. So I cover all the salutations. Greetings to everybody. Quick rundown of the show. As usual, new news is going to be first. All right. I'm going to update you on everything that's happened in the past week since my last episode. Then we kind of have a continuing episode. So this episode is going to be very similar to the last one as far as formatting. It's definitely going to be new information, of course. But the second segment, I'm going to continue on that AFC from the bottom to the top per division. Probably do another two. Last time we were trying to gauge that and see where it would take us in the amount of time I'm supposed to have for the segment. So do another two, maybe three. Third segment, going to finish up those top 20 wide receivers. I know y'all been itching for that. I know I didn't, prep you guys on possibly missing me for Easter. So whoever was looking for that, here it comes. You're going to get the top 10 receivers in the game right now. All right. And then the last off, we're going to talk about debates of the week yet again. More things have happened in this amount of time. More things have come to the top of the sports conversation. So you get to hear my take on that. But let's get it started, man. Here we go with the new news, all right? Veteran free agent defensive lineman Danny Shelton is signing a one-year deal with the Giants. Giants packing up that line so that they can have better protection, so that their quarterback cannot get hurt anymore. Smart. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a defensive lineman. Either way it goes, there's going to be damage being done. 2, Seattle Seahawks are giving wide receiver Tyler Lockett a 4-year, $69.2 million contract extension, including a $37 million guaranteed within that amount of agreed money. Now, why? Either because there's only two ways people really see Tyler Lockett. You see him as a top receiver, not top 2, top 3, but a top receiver who deserves this money. Or you're like, why did they pay him and not get rid of him? Well, I mean, look, come on now. Let's talk about efficiency. I just told you all in the last episode about Tyler Lockett when I had him on my top 20. He was number 13 on my list. 13 in the NFL. This guy catches the ball and not only catches it, gets down the field with it. He doesn't end up on the ground. He's not easily tackled. But at the end of the day, the most important thing he does is score. He was like literally top 3 in receiving touchdowns last season, and he's been pretty constant with that. And if I remember correctly, he had multiple seasons with 1,000-yard passing yards working with Russell Wilson. So I'm pretty sure Russ had probably even a little say-so in this deal because that is definitely his touchdown guy. All right. Indianapolis Colts are re-signing their defensive end, Al-Qaeda Muhammad, on a 1-year, $3.4 million deal. Helped them out there. Former Steelers safety Sean Davis is signing a 1-year deal with the Colts as well. So the Colts are making deals here and there to compete in the AFC South. So we'll probably hear about them later on, since they were at the top of that division this past season and have made so many new acquisitions. One of 6 teams that are starting a new quarterback this year coming up. We'll see. Again, I'm going to talk about that later, though. Former Seahawks defensive back Quentin Dunbar signing a 1-year deal with the Lions. Good pickup. Spoke, if not last episode before last, really talking about how the Lions needed, defensive pieces and have been working their way to become a stronger secondary team. Are a decent move for them. You also know that being the quarterback they have, he complements well with defense support. Jared has not been just the biggest scorer, only when he had 1 trillion weapons, which he no longer has. So they're definitely going to need that compensation on the other side of the ball to keep the other teams from scoring. So good pickup of Quentin Dunbar. Panthers have signed free agent offensive lineman Martez Ivy to a 1-year contract deal. Money on that has not been displayed from what I've seen, but O-line getting signed is always usually a good sign. Unlike skills positions, it's not usually a fight to get the position, because look, that first off, your quarterback's important, then the protection of the quarterback is second most important on a team, right? So when you get these guys out here that have, especially veterans, that have experience at the very least with how to protect a quarterback, Panthers being a team that definitely is going to need it, which we'll talk about some more in a second. But that was a good pickup getting him. Now, why did I say that? Well, that's because the biggest news that's probably has happened in the football world this past week is that the New York Jets, traded quarterback Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers for a 2021 6th-round pick and a 2022 2nd and 4th-round pick. Okay, once again, let's hear that slower. Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers. Picks 2021 6th round pick, and 2nd and 4th round picks of 2022 are going to the Jets. So, did Sam go for a lot? Was this worth it? Being that the Carolina Panthers were kind of in the running for the top of the draft pick area, could definitely have traded up. Who won this? I mean, it's hard to say. In my opinion, based off what we've seen, Sam Darnold isn't really a franchise quarterback, at least not to the extreme of where the league is now. Okay? He has not proven that. And I get it. He's been in New York this whole time. But we've seen multiple quarterbacks literally do their thing regardless of what's going on where they're at. Deshaun Watson, for example, was on a terrible team this past season, had no help. They got rid of his best receiver. And he still led the league in passing yards and just had a crazy year for a quarterback this season, right? So that shows it can be done. But Sam has not shown that. So why did the Panthers go and get this guy? I mean, one would say, oh, well, he's competing for this job with Teddy Bridgewater. But no, you don't go get someone that's almost worse than Teddy Bridgewater, if not on the same level, to replace him. So I don't know if they're going to use him as a trading piece, if he's supposed to be part of a bigger package deal that they're moving somewhere else, and that just has not came out yet. Usually when those deals happen, though, they happen all at once, and you hear like a little 3-way, 4-way deal. So that's less likely, but keep in mind, the Panthers have still, their draft pick in the 1st round, which is a decent one, so they can definitely get a strong skill player to help out. Okay, like I just mentioned, Sam didn't have that in New York. He didn't have that. Now he has a very good running back who can also catch the ball, possibly the number 1, if not 2nd best catching running back in the game. Okay, and then you add another strong piece in a receiver or a tight end. Like just let Kyle Pitts fall to them or anyone of that nature. Really, any of those top 3 receivers in my book, Jamar Chase, even Jalen Waddle, any of those guys can go there and possibly make a difference. I mean, because I believe the players' words are a little stronger than hearing them from even scouts and analysts, to be honest. Because players, like, it's more of a feel. It's less of a, this is what I'm seeing number-wise, and this is what I feel like. Hey, when I'm running with this guy, or, we're at practice, I seen him, operate in the game. This is how he operates. This is how we connect. And I've heard decent things about him, okay? So, with that being said, that could definitely happen, and he can honestly shut me up. He could shut me and a lot of people up about talking about him. That is Sam Darnold. You get them a good solid trio of him, McCaffrey, and a solid first round receiver who can become a rookie of the year if they take off. Hey, more power to you. To be honest, I'm hoping that's what I see. Just because I like seeing good ball. We've discussed this a million times. I like seeing good ball. So, hey, Sam, you got this chip on your shoulder. You hear everyone talking. You saw what you just got traded for, versus what other people like Matthew Stafford got traded for, who is much older than Sam Darnold. As far as, football years, you got to remember football years are older than what our actual years are because wear and tear, right? You got to see the players as almost like automobile. But yeah, so that's the trade. That's what happened. I wish both teams luck. Can't wait to see how this is going to turn out. All right. In other quarterback news, Kyle Shanahan mentioned this past week, he said it's accurate that the team is planning to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, the San Francisco 49ers, that is, bearing like all the hours, forgetting all the offers that are being shot their way for him. Shanahan said that he believes it would be hard to find a quarterback who helps them win right now more than Garoppolo, and he's excited to have a QB learning behind him. Okay, so we know San Francisco just made the big move, went up to number 3 in the draft pick, which means they're guaranteed to get a quarterback. Okay, I take that back. Not guaranteed, but should be guaranteed to take a quarterback. But with that being said, if you're not picking a franchise quarterback as your number 3, like, why? I don't know if any team, no matter how good you are, in a position to have a top 3 pick and not get the bang for your buck. So what does that mean? Does that mean they're going to get the strongest skill player? Now, he did just mention someone playing a QB learning behind him, but I don't know. Well, in my opinion, Trevor Lawrence, of course, like I said, is supposed to be gone, so I don't count him. But I'm gonna say him in this scenario that Trevor Lawrence and maybe one more person, and I can't name it, but 2 max, them two people max, including Trevor Lawrence, him and one more, don't need to possibly step back. I mean, we never know what anyone's truly capable of until they play, of course. Being surprised by certain people like Justin Herbert, right? But what I'm trying to get at is that don't get a quarterback at number 3 to put him behind Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is good, but not that person. That kid could at least compete for the position. I'm surprised that you're not using Jimmy as, someone to get more talent on your team if you are going to get a quarterback anyway. But at the end of the day, hey, Jimmy did take you guys to a Super Bowl, so you're saying that's the best option for you guys? All right. I would say get somebody to help him. We just watched what happened last year with Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Okay? They put a guy behind him. They took him in the first round. That guy collecting dust somewhere. Haven't really heard anything in his situation. But Aaron Rodgers won the MVP. He won the MVP award. He's not going anywhere. Okay? What will they do, basically? That's what this news is saying. Like, oh my goodness, they're saying that they are going to stick with Jimmy because we've all been waiting for him to go somewhere else because of them moving up. But that's the guy they're sticking with. Pretty sure we'll hear more on that within the next week, though. I can feel it. Just because, as I've said before on this show, sometimes they're not always telling the truth when it comes to what they believe in their quarterbacks. Like, yeah, this is our guy. We've heard it a million times. But this one, coming from the head coach, someone that's been in the game for a long time at that too, I don't see why he would even say everything he said. You know, if he had just said something simple like Jimmy's our guy, but like the extent of his comments did sound like he weighed heavily toward Jimmy and possibly doesn't agree with the GM or the team on getting a new quarterback. So maybe there's some internal stuff going on there. All right. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers will be hosting Jeopardy for 2 weeks, starting this past week on April 5th. He had an episode and continuing through the week of April 12th. And they did have a snippet come out. They didn't really show what the answer was, but you know how Jeopardy works. They show you the answer, you ask the question. One of the ones that's been going around the sports world, so they get a couple giggles, is that one of the contestants' question to answer the answer, I guess that's how you say it, was whose idea was it to kick the field goal, you know, referring to their playoff loss. And, you know, Aaron Rodgers was a good sport, kind of chuckled, laughed, and said, that's a good question. Almost kind of insinuated that it definitely wasn't his idea. Which I bet it wasn't. But, hey, Packer fans, you live to see another year with the MVP for sure. So, at least that's the beneficial part. Dan Snyder officially acquired the 40% interest in the Washington football team, previously owned by the minority owners, so making him the sole owner of the Washington football team, which I've also heard through the grapevine, meaning the internet, that they plan on keeping that name. Interesting enough. Also, if you're someone like me who recognized the name, no, that is not the same Snyder that did the Justice League movie. I checked. Also, some really cool news in the Washington football team world. They hired Natalie Durantes as their coordinator of football programs. She reports directly to head coach Ron Rivera, who connected with her at the women's conference football forum. That I know that he also has some other women on his staff that I've mentioned on this show before that he met there as well. So clearly he's a big advocate as far as getting women into the space, which is awesome. She will be working with the coaching staff and football operations and will serve in a chief of staff role. But she isn't new to the league. She was doing recruiting for Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, whoop. And she also, like I said, she's worked on a social media capacity in the NFL for the Arizona Cardinals, and then also worked at Arizona State. So really dope that they're doing that they're having that happen. Like I said, women get into the space. The diversity is awesome. We saw what the Super Bowl team's staff and back room just looked like as how diverse it is. So clearly, the more minds, the better. Different backgrounds always help. Tom Brady, because you can't have a football talk show without Tom Brady being mentioned, right? Or the Cowboys. But Tom Brady rookie card sells for $2.25 million. That's a lot of money for a card, guys. Man, like I've never really been into the sports cards when I was a kid. I was into some other ones, but I always thought about it like, does it matter which kind of card? Because, you know, there's certain brands. For example, I'm speaking on, like, you got your Walmart brand of, let's say a bag. You got your Walmart brand. Then you got your, you know, maybe a little more name brand, well-known, Michael Kors. And then you got your Louis Vuitton, Hermes. Like, you know how you got level 2. I wonder if that's the same thing in card brands. Because if not, then you could just get any card of anyone when they come out and just, all you gotta do is keep it safe. I mean, because clearly, I guarantee you no one thought Tom Brady's rookie year when this card came out. I don't even know who even thought to make him a card. I don't know how the card world works, if everybody gets a card or just the up-and-coming people. But, man, I know they didn't know it was going to sell for $2.25. Maybe they got it early on and paid a good buck for it. But either way it goes, I need to get into this, okay? If somebody hit me up and let me know how I can, you know, get some cards for the low, like these rookie cards, and then make some money off them later on in life. Because I'm going to get everybody's and not touch them. Keep them in a refrigerator or something. That way they stay in mint condition. That's what you always hear on TV, mint condition, right? But no, hey, Does Tom Brady get any of that either? I don't know. Okay, so for people that haven't heard of NFTs, this is an evolving space, and from my understanding, NFTs are, I forgot what all it incorporates, but it's basically like you can sell anything that has possible value internet-wise, I guess, online, and make people a sole owner of that individual piece, I guess. Even though, we can all see it, I guess, or whatever, but it's like that belongs to someone in a way. So I'm bringing this up because Peyton and Eli Manning are the first retired NFL players to launch their own digital artwork through an NFT. All right. Now, like I said, these things have been going for a lot of money lately too. I think the person that started Twitter, he sold the first tweet ever, right, for like thousands of dollars. So just to give you an idea of what kind of stuff they're selling, right? The Manning Legacy Collection will go live on Marketplace on the 16th of this month, with a portion of the proceeds going to charity, Manning Foundation, and the cancer treatment situation. So that still a little confused on what all it is, and maybe I'll learn more if we hear a bit more and give it to you guys, or if you guys already know more about it, then share it. And that's good they're doing that, though, especially with charities being connected. Update on Deshaun Watson. So in the past week, there has been Houston Police Department picked up on it. They, released just a small statement saying that, someone filed to them and that they'll be investigating. Also, 2 women came out publicly. So far, we had just heard from the lawyer. They'll come to the lawyer. The lawyer kind of pretty much tells us or puts it out there, or the media does at least. But now 2 women decided they were brave enough to speak for themselves. So, again, we're only getting information at this point. I guess we all should just be, listening at the very least. And as the trial, trial hasn't even started, but as this process goes on, we'll see how far it gets. A lot of people don't believe it would even get to a trial. It'll probably be settled outside, but hey, what does this even say for, the future, or in the NFL? We know the NFL definitely does not tolerate things like this. So how will they handle it when, before everything comes out? Everything's not even going to come out before the season starts, I'm sure. So we'll see how the season looks for Deshaun Watson and for the Texans and more. Lastly, I just want to mention, because I did get to talk about a couple guys moving fast in the NCAA through their pro days on the last episode. This episode, we'll talk about my guy, Kyle Pitts. He posted a 4.4 in his 40. 4.44 to be exact. 4 seconds, 44 milliseconds. In a 40-yard dash by a 6'6", 245-pound tight end. What'd I tell you guys? I told you, this guy's elite. Okay? There's going to be no touching him in the league if he is used properly. I'm so excited to see where he goes because I just want to see him play, to be honest. All right? But even though it's been a week, that's all I got for the new news. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the AFC divisions coming from the bottom to the top. All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Alrighty. Thank you for your patience and your listening ear. You are tuned in to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, DJ Youngs. Alright, now y'all just working on my good old anchor voice. But no, thanks for tuning in. We're back. First segment, start off new news as usual. Now we're continuing a segment that's going to go on for at least possibly 2 more episodes, as I wanted to touch on teams that are in the bottom, the underdogs, the teams that are being ignored unless you are the fan of that team because they are last in their division with little hopes to get to the top unless they have something great on the line or just made a great trade or have an upcoming draft pick that's going to change their lives, right? So last episode, I had a chance to discuss the AFC East being the Jets, New York Jets, and the moves they were going to make to the top of that division. Also touched on AFC North, Cincinnati Bengals, about their season, about what's going on with Joe Burrow, him coming back, and them making a very strong fight to compete in what I believe to be the most competitive division in the NFL. The Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns really had a good season last season. So it's going to take a lot for Cincinnati to jump back in there, just to remind you. Now, going to get to a little more difficult but very interesting division in the AFC South. All right. Jacksonville Jaguars came in last season, not only in their division, but overall in the entire NFL, winning only one single game out of their 16, making them 1-15, of course. That one game just so happened to be the very first game of the season, with them defeating the Colts 27-20. Man, you should have seen the headlines, Minshew Mania 2.0 and all this kind of stuff, because Minshew the quarterback had a good game. He was 19 of 20, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns, making it look easy. The receivers were catching the ball. And don't get me wrong, it could easily have been true if it continued. But clearly this was just a lucky game because, as we know, the Jaguars are no match for the Colts. The Colts tied the division leading Titans to, take the league and, still made themselves get to the playoffs to compete. Jaguars were nowhere near that when they met again later in the season. Of course, Indianapolis defeated them, and I believe that was in the last game. Yeah, so they played them the first game and the last game. But yeah, the Colts ended up defeating them 28-14. Some of these games, man, you just don't even know if they were playing. Like the Bears game, they lost 41-17. Ravens 40-14. Steelers 27-3. What are these games saying to me? When they're not close like this, Texans 30-14. When I hear games like this is saying more than, hey, you guys aren't scoring enough. Okay? Especially on the 41-17. You're not getting in the end zone enough. And matter of fact, those points probably came at the end. But that also shows that your defense isn't keeping them out. All right? Yeah, Minshew had a decent season. 2,200 on the season. Definitely you should see double that. 16 touchdowns. Yeah, and the teams definitely should see double that. But yeah, there was nothing there for these guys, man. DJ Clark tried his best to lead, but being that he was the number 1 receiver, he was always held down, and I guess he just wasn't a difference maker that they were hoping he would be on that team. But getting to what they will need, being that they were the last in the entire NFL as far as win percentages, they get the first pick in this NFL draft, meaning they get to pick a life-changing player. Who is that going to be? No one other than Trevor Lawrence. All sure he's going to Jacksonville. I've said it before. I like him more in Jacksonville than I did if he was to go to New York Jets. So here it is. They'll get Trevor, and he will turn the entire thing around. With help, of course. Not completely by himself. But I'm saying that to say that they're not going to need much more. Like I said, I think this is one of the top 2 quarterbacks to come out, the NCAA in the last 3 years or so. He's definitely a game changer. You can't say otherwise. He's going to make a difference on what they're going to do. So, they've had some pickups. They have a new coach coming in. They're going to have a new quarterback. This is going to be a whole new team. Okay? They're going to have some new playmakers. They're going to have new decision makers. This is what they're going to need to turn around and compete in this division. If you ask me, they're really only competing with Tennessee as of now. We don't know what's going on with Houston. Houston had a terrible season with a good quarterback that's in a lot of craziness right now. So we don't know what the future looks like that for them. So I'm not even going to talk about Houston. But when it comes to Tennessee Titans, who have been a powerhouse these last 2 years, have not made their way all the way down to the AFC championship game. But with the running back that's in that backfield, the quarterback that's under center, and the defense that's been getting them the wins to make them 11-5 the past season and win the division, Tennessee is going to be the team to beat again this upcoming season if you want to be at the top of this division. All right? Indianapolis, Phillip Rivers, I feel like, was a fair quarterback. I feel like he did them justice. Now, do I think Carson Wentz is an upgrade? Me, no. Do I think he's downgrade? No. But if he was Carson Wentz MVP Wentz, then of course. But we haven't seen MVP Wentz since MVP Wentz, literally. So is that going to change now that he's moved climates, locations? Maybe not climates. They're pretty close together. But, I don't know. I have this vision that Philly is way more snowy than Indianapolis. But think about it. Carson Wentz been struggling. This is somebody they went on a whim for them to get. You know that they're going to go, get some more help in the draft. Physically, protect him, speed, stuff of that nature they're going to need. But will this be enough to dethrone Tennessee or compete with Jacksonville, who's going to have this new hotshot rookie that a lot of analysts don't believe is going to miss a beat? It's going to surpass maybe even what Justin Herbert just did this past season. We'll see. But I think they made all the right moves. I think they're sitting in a happy position. That's why we haven't heard much from them, because what is there to say? There's no negativity coming behind Trevor Lawrence, who a lot of teams possibly been waiting on coming into the league for the last 2 years since he's been eligible. I believe he's been eligible for 2 years. Either way, he's the number 1 pick. Okay? That's why he's chilling at his house. That's why he don't have to go and witness this in person. He'd rather spend it with his family, and I don't blame him. Alright? But that's my take on the Jaguars moving up in AFC South. Now, my last AFC division is the AFC West. The rankings go: first place this past season was the Kansas City Chiefs, 14-2. Came in second, the Las Vegas Raiders, 8-8. 7-9 was the record for the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Denver Broncos came in last with 5-11. What do those numbers say to you? I see one standout team and a lot of regular teams. Not even terrible. Now, don't get me wrong. Broncos come in last. They could have done better. But we all know they didn't have much. Okay? Their best player is on defense. And he didn't play the whole season. Okay? They haven't had a quarterback since Peyton Manning. We all know that. And the running back needed a lot of work and still got injured. So not only they're beat up and lacking talent, but they are not even making the right moves as of now in order to turn that around. Except for on one side of the ball. The defense side. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, before I even continue on with describing how I think Denver should go about making their way to the top, I would like to add the disclaimer that I don't believe anyone, Las Vegas, especially not the Chargers, are going to be dethroning Pat Baby Goat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs are a reckon to be dealing with. Like I said, they went 14-2. And one of those games, I think it's because they were lollygagging. Like, I always mention that they don't be covering the spread, and that's because, hey, when they need to turn it on, they turn it on. They waited too late. They lost to literally a division rival in Las Vegas Raiders. So that was a oopsie, but they learned from that real quick. They were like, oh, can't have that happening again. So, no, they're not invincible. They lost 2 games. But they know how to win. Okay? When it matters. Alright? They are going to make it happen. They just came off a Super Bowl win, then a Super Bowl loss. They still have their elite players, skill players specifically. The only person they really lost was Sammy Watkins. But Sammy Watkins has been beat up every season for how many seasons? Okay. Now, that's what I just want to disclaim. But Denver Broncos, okay, they went 5-11. All right. Like I said, this still makes you not the best team, right? It doesn't make you the worst, as I just spoke about the worst team in the NFL. They had Melvin Gordon, who I thought was going to be someone really making things happen for him. He ended up getting less than 1,000 yards this season. So coming out of everything that happened with him the previous season, coming from the Chargers and stuff, thought we'd get more out of him. Drew Lock, no one has ever felt comfortable about. It's time to move on from that. I don't know if they're going to have him for another season, but I guess we'll see, right? But they picked up a good one when they got Jerry Jeudy. I like Jerry Jeudy. I just don't think they gave him the opportunity he needed. Jerry Jeudy had 856 yards with 52 receptions and 3 touchdowns this past season. Who's calling the plays? Who's not getting Jerry Jeudy the ball? I don't know. But I'm not going to say that person needs to be fired, but they need to get it together. Okay? Now, like I mentioned, something that they have been putting their time in, as I believe they should, is on the defensive side of the ball this offseason. You know, they got Vic Fangio handling his business with their defense, which I believe is a big part of the haul that they've been doing for signing. Like I said, their best players on defense, that person being Von Miller, who they touched up his contract this past season, as well as Kareem Jackson, keeping those guys going. They also signed Justin Simmons, gave him the big contract. He'll be handling safety for them. Kyle Fuller, cornerback, signed a 1-year deal. And Ronald Darby, as I mentioned a couple episodes back, also he agreed to a 3-year deal with the Broncos worth $30 million. The last defensive person they picked up was Shelby Harris, the defensive end. And he agreed to a deal to, keep him on there for 3 years and $27 million. Von Miller should be coming back this season after sitting out last season with his injuries. So could the Broncos make a run for it to win the division? Or at least get up there and compete for it, right? Get into the playoffs. Become a wild card. It will take the best draft pick line. I'm talking about like Tom Brady's 6th round pick type of pickups. Alright? And I don't want you to think I'm saying like they have to get Tom Brady. No. Now, of course, if they find themselves a Tom Brady, then I mean, what am I gonna do? I can't argue with that. But I'm talking like another player like Von Miller went in the first round when he was drafted, but Von Miller was a defensive end who won MVP in the Super Bowl. You see what I'm saying? So we see that they have the capability. They're in the top 10 picks. Denver Broncos have the 9th pick. Okay? They can make it happen on the first round. I'm talking about the first round so here. It depends who it is. Who's going to get who. They're not going to get a quarterback. They should have traded for one. I don't know why they haven't. But yeah, you're going to still get you a top two skill player. And that's either in the running back or the receiver department. Not getting the quarterback. I mean, you could maybe, depending on really what happens with the Falcons, where we hear them in conversations of letting someone move up, and what's going on with the Panthers, because that whole situation is confusing. I don't know. But yeah, I think those are the two people that you've really got to watch and see what you're going to do, because, like I said, there's 3. We know the first 3 are picking quarterbacks. Jacksonville Jaguars, and we know it's going to be Trevor. And then you got the New York Jets at 2 and San Francisco 49ers at 3, even though I mentioned earlier they said they're sticking with Jimmy G. Now, there's at least 4 quarterbacks worth taking in this draft. So that's possible that they could get that at 9, right? So, 9 including Trevor Lawrence. The other 3 guys we have here are Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and Wilson. So, are any of those 3 guys going to turn your organization around? Who knows? Also, I like to mention the Detroit Lions at 7. They have Jared Goff, but they not take a quarterback to back him up. And if Jared Goff's having a good season, they sit back and learn from him. Or if he's not looking too good, they get him out of there and put in the rookie. This isn't college no more. You don't have to have a red shirt season. You can play. They can play. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks on this one. Denver's a tricky one. Possibly the trickiest as far as coming from the bottom. Because as of right now, no, it almost looks like no matter what they do, they'll still be there at the bottom. Do we see Las Vegas getting any worse? No. They're only going to get better. For the last 2 years, they've only gotten better. I think that's going to continue. Did they lose their deep threat and Nelson Aguilar? Yeah, but I don't think that's stopping anything. Los Angeles Chargers, they swear that they're making different moves, getting new head coaches and picking up new players in the offseason on the defensive end. But will they have enough? They have Justin Herbert, who shows plenty of promise. He just needs the right people on his side. So are they going to get that for him? I'm sure they are. I'm sure he proved it. But I mean, hey, Denver, you've had your heyday. Just like most teams. I understand. Hey, we'll see where it goes from there. Okay? Okay, so that's the end of the AFC. Alright, American Football Conference. So next time, I'm going to do the NFC East and NFC North. And then we'll finish off on that 2 episodes from now, NFC South and NFC West. NFC is very competitive. Even if your teams are in a sucky, they're in a sucky division. So the National Football Conference is probably still one of the more competitive conferences if you compare it to the American one. But hey, if your team is over on the NFC side, or if you're just so interested in listening to what they may need to, get over that hump, definitely tune in to the next episode and the episode after that as I discuss more of from the bottom to the top. All right. Next up, you guys will finally get to hear what I got for you in store for you in regards to the top 10 receivers in the league. Yes, not the people coming in draft. There's a lot of great receivers coming in this draft. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about the people that's already been doing it, the veterans, even the fresh meat, guys that just got in it but been, playing enough for me to see what they got in front of the world. All right, so that's coming up next. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you, Lincoln Park, for that beautiful rendition of the... No, I'm kidding. All right, everybody, welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. I'm your host, DJ Youngs, back again. We're on to our third segment. First one, talked about what's going on new in the NFL. Touched on one NCAA record from a top prospect. Talked about what's going on as far as the Jets getting rid of their quarterback, going for a new one, where he's going, what the Panthers are going to look like with a Sam Darnold as their quarterback, replacing Teddy Bridgewater. Quarterbacks are important, but the flashier of the two is the receiver. That's why we're talking about receivers now, which rolls over perfectly as I come from the last segment, talking about bottom to the top, what teams need, and what makes these guys great is the quarterback, is the team. They make the team, but they get to be the one that gets to take all the pictures and in some cases be the top paid on IG when it comes to sports influencers. Okay? Now, give you a quick recap of my list for 20 through 11 top receivers in the league currently. Number 20 was Adam Thielen. Number 19, George Kittle. Number 18, Allen Robinson. Number 17, Antonio Brown. Number 16, Darren Waller. Number 15, A.J. Brown. Number 14, Amari Cooper. Number 13, Tyler Lockett. Number 12, Chris Godwin. And number 11, Justin Jefferson. No, all great guys, man. All great players. Like, anyone should be happy to have them on their team. But there are 10 guys that are better than them, if you ask me. All of them, all 10 of these guys are literally pretty much in different points, minus like 3 or 4 of them that's in a cluster in one area. But all of them are technically in different parts of their career journey. But they all landed a top 10 spot on my top receiver list. Okay? Let's pop it off and get your excitement going. Number 10, coming to you live right here, is the New Orleans Saints, Michael Thomas. Yes, I think just last year, so in the 2019 season, most people had him ranked number 1 receiver in the league. Well, now, why did they have him ranked so high? Well, that's because his efficiency, ever since coming into the league out of OSU in 2016 has been remarkable. He's had 1,000-yard seasons every year except for this past season. This past season, he only played 7 games, and those weren't even fully due to injury issues. I believe he's actually due to get surgery. But literally, before this season, he only missed 1 game ever. Okay? Michael Thomas has been there with Drew Brees, for one, who's an incredible passer, who's already breaking all the records. So, of course, he's throwing it to, his best players. But Michael Thomas had an injury. Like I said, it was a low mark. He's dropped down from the top 2 talked about to, in my case, bottom 10. All right. So, just this season, he had 40 receptions on 55 targets, which is good. Okay, 40 out of 55 is really good. But he only had 430 yards, no touchdowns. 7 games, no touchdowns. He's a number 1 receiver, so of course he's being held differently. But, hey, like I said, only been in the league for 5 years. In that 5 years, he's racked up over 4,000 yards. Really over 5,000. Almost 6. And if you want to include this season, almost 6. He almost has 6,000 yards total. 32 touchdowns total. Only 5 fumbles. Not terrible. But he's a strong guy. Getting the end zone when it mattered the season before. So looking at his 2019 stats, which made him, top ranked. He had 149 receptions on 185 targets. That's incredible. Okay? Like, what? You're telling me this guy only missed, 36 balls? Out of almost 200? Great. Over 1,700 yards in that season. Pushing for a 2K. Alright? That's great. But, overall, he's always averaged, no matter even this past season where he's barely played, double digits on the catch. He's been averaging like double digits per yards per catch. That means you get me a first down. You average me a first down minimum every year you're with me. You're my guy. All right. So Mike Thomas, but I think he's a good go up and catch guy. That's why I really like him. All right, number 9, single digits. We're in the single digits. All right, better than the first 11 people I've named. Is DK Metcalf with the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, this freak of nature here, man, came into the league in 2019 out of Ole Miss. 2nd round at that. It's been nothing but building, man. His first season was kind of okay, but this last season in 2020, you definitely see he's trending in the right direction, okay? 83 catches on 129 targets. Over 1,300 yards, averaging 15.7 yards a catch. Crazy number there. Okay. 10 touchdowns, which is a fair number. But DK is just, like I said, a freak of nature. And I mean that in the positive way, not the negative way. Like, this guy can go down. He can run. He can be physical. We saw what he did this past season as he literally ran 80-plus yards to track down Budda Baker, who got an interception. All right, so we know what he can do. He's just making his way into becoming possibly their number 1 receiver. When he came in as a rookie, of course, he wasn't number 1. And then, you got Tyler Lockett, who's been having an extraordinary career, period, with the Seattle Seahawks. But as I've mentioned, DK is on his way to the top. When it's time for them to, his contract come up and he continues to be healthy, they are going to re-sign him. They're going to find a way. As a matter of fact, I believe DK hasn't even had his real splash season. Like I said, this was just a good season for him. I think it's only going to be better. Now, this is speaking based off of physical ability. I don't know his mentality. I haven't heard enough conferences or just enough of him talking, period. So I can't speak too much on that. But I'm going just based off the eye test. He's top 9. All right? Based off the eye test, what I've seen, him being with Russ. And again, most of these receivers, the top 10, and then especially the ones that have other teammates on this list, so multiple receivers on one list, they're lucky because they have great quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, like I said, play a big part in receiver success. So shout out to the quarterback. Shout out to Russ Wilson for having 2 receivers on this list here. All right. Number 8. All right, we're going to move from the wide receivers onto a tight end. No one other than Kansas City's own Travis Kelce, number 8. And that's because literally this man cannot be stopped. He's on top 2 best teams, and he does have help on there as far as skill players. But this is a tight end on my top 8 wide receivers list. So I can't even make it a wide receivers list. This is a catchers list. Top catchers. Okay, ball catchers and runners. I don't know what you want to call it. Break it down if you want to. Travis Kelce came into the league in 2013. He was drafted in 2013. He played in Cincinnati and got drafted by Kansas City. So he's been with them the entire time. I believe it was the same time that Andy Reid came to Kansas City. So he's been with them there. And the guy has only missed 2 games, including one this season. Once in 2017, and he had to miss one because of his injury. He had to sit out this past season. And you want to know what he's done? Well, for the past 5 years, over 1,000. 2 years before that, he'd been in the league. He was over 800. So over 1,600 and over 10 touchdowns first 2 seasons. Then it's only up from there, man. Averaging somewhere around 13 yards per catch from 2016 through 2020. All right. This past season, he went for 105 catches, 100 out of 145 targets, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns. All right. 11 touchdowns. This man is just falling in the end zone left and right. Like, he's literally top 2 in yards of a receiver for this past season. And then backdoor in his top 5 in touchdowns. When you got those 2 coinciding, you can't be anything other than excited, right? At least satisfied, at very minimum. I think that's why I think he deserved a spot on this list. And then not only that, he's as high as he is. Patrick Mahomes fired him. Oh, you take away that. You take away that person. It's all right. We got Travis coming over here doing this. He can block. He's only gotten better over the time, and now he's proven himself as a receiver, as a catch maker. I believe there was rumor because I remember it came out that he had restructured his deal so that they could have more cap room on the team for the players. But then he came out on the I believe Pat McAfee show and let him know that he didn't do anything, but he would. He said he would if he needed to, which I'm pretty sure they heard that. But yeah, Travis Kelce, man, I pray for his longevity. To be honest, I know tight end's a tough position for sure, but hey, that is a bad man right there. Definitely number 1 tight end in the league right now, elite. But you got some competition coming, buddy. That position. Hey, man, we already got Hall of Famers like Shannon Sharp already hyping up the person I'm hyping up. So, hey, Travis going to pick his game up. I know Travis. He likes competition. He likes having those back and forths, especially in little things like that. But it's not anything that's going to, tarnish his name. He's a good sport. But yes, Travis Kelce, number 8. Congrats. Top 7. Who is number 7? Well, this player here got injured over the season, didn't get to play much. It's had possibly the best Olympic, extravagant, entertaining catch of all time in the NFL. Yes, no one other than the Cleveland Browns, Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. is here to stay, no matter if you like him or not. If you want to like him personally, if you don't like where he went to school, at LSU, if you don't like the year he came out, first round pick in 2014, if you didn't like him because he left your New York Giants, I don't know. But Odell is a playmaker. That's why he's relevant. That's why you still hear about him. That's why he could still go to a team and still cost more than Sam Darnold did. All right. Now, like I mentioned, he did tear his ACL this past season. He had, get surgery. He's been rehabilitating. It's going to be comeback. I believe he was on my comeback players list. But yeah, he only got to play 7 games this past season. So, you know what? I'm not even going to mention it. Even though he did have 3 touchdowns, I'm not even going to mention this season. All right. Let's go season back. All right. You got Baker. He came in there. 16 games. They played together. 74 receptions on 133 targets. 1,035 yards. Okay, 4 touchdowns. All right. That's fair. That's trending in the right direction. But then, like I said, this past season, a few injuries. But the team did well, and he had less touchdowns because Baker was able to distribute a little bit more. So, this upcoming season, it's only going to be better. Still Odell Beckham. He might be distracted or passionate on the sideline. You call it what you want. But at the end of the day, we're talking about your physical ability and your position in this sport. And with that, he is number 7 in the league. All right. Number 6 is a player that a lot of people have forgotten about. And that will be Atlanta Falcons Julio Jones. Don't forget about Julio. Whenever you're talking about elite receivers that are playing in the NFL, you got to talk about him. Yes, I know he's in his 30s. I know he got drafted in 2011. First round, 6th pick by Atlanta out of Alabama. But think about it. Who could stop him one-on-one still? Okay? This is still a guy in his 30s that has to be double-teamed. His quarterback is aging. I'm not sure what exactly they're going to do about that next season. There's rumors there. There's rumors here. Oh, are they going to get one in the draft? Are they going to move up? Is it his time? Well, they don't need to move up. I believe they're in a pretty good position to still get someone. But, we hear talk that they're in talks of trading with somebody as far, for that pick. Who knows? But what I know is that line up anybody, any DB one-on-one with this guy, and he can pretty much demolish them. Which I believe is true about really my top 7. I give it top 7. I want to say top 10. But there might be 2 questionables in there. So, maybe even a top 8 of these guys. So, Julio Jones is in there, man. That's someone that goes in there, get up there, get the ball, strong hands, get you off of them, and still continues moving forward with the ball. Not much proven this past season, as he only played 9 games, had 51 catches for 771 yards, 3 touchdowns. So, maybe not your favorite fantasy player. But, let's just look at the years in the past. From 2014 to 2019, this guy was killing it in yards. 1,000 yards over each season. Well over. Like, even 2 of the seasons, he had 1,800. Another, he had 1,600. Fair score. Gets an end zone. I guess they call his number for sure. But he takes care of the ball. Last season, no fumbles. Season before that, only 1. Julio Jones, you are number 6. Number 5. This is someone that had an amazing season on his new team. Arguably top 2, if not top receiver. He was definitely number 1 in receiving yards this past season. That is the Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs. Oh my goodness, this guy was unstoppable. 1,535 yards this past season. Killing it. All right. 127 receptions on the 16 games he played in with 8 touchdowns. Man, I feel sorry for saying that you were number 2 receiver back in Minnesota, man. But, hey, I'm not even saying that you weren't good. I'm just saying that a lot of people thought Adam Thielen was a little more, up there. Which I guess Adam Thielen still kind of speaks for himself, as I see that he can keep up with being, making this list with being the number 1 receiver on his team. That didn't stop it, they didn't, even with Stephon Diggs leaving, that didn't stop anything. But yeah, Stephon Diggs, man, has been going crazy. He's been having over 1,000 yards per season for the last 3 years. Again, if you don't know who he is, he came out of Maryland in 2015 in the 5th round, so a steal from Minnesota. But they gave him on up to Buffalo, which I'm pretty sure Josh Allen was not upset with that at all. They almost went to Super Bowl together. And I think they're going to be back in that position this upcoming season. So, Stephon Diggs, you made the top 5, buddy. I'm proud of you. Number 4, we're bringing it in. I know you're getting more interested. Who is top 4? Number 4, Tyreek Hill. Mainly because he is the fastest dude on the field at any position. Got some other guys I'm sure could say they can compete with him. I understand. But we're talking about the fastest wide receiver I've seen in I don't know how long. Maybe the fastest guy I've seen since Chris Johnson. Tyreek Hill, another great steal out of West Alabama back in 2016 in the 5th round. Kansas City, what a pick, man. This guy here, you cannot keep up with. Defensive backs cannot keep up with this man. He's definitely going to have over 1,000 yards every year as long as he plays at least, 13 games? I'm saying 13 because in 2019 he only played 12 and had 860. So he's a little short, but if he would have played 4 more games, we know he would have been over 1,000. But yeah, this past season he only played 15 games, 87 receptions, over 1,200 yards, averaging almost 15 yards per catch, 15 touchdowns. My goodness, no one's stopping him in the end zone. I know he had 2-point conversions and everything too, man. I think he, in total, this past season, he accounted for 102 points. 102 points. So on his 15 receptions, touchdown, and 2 rushing touchdowns. That's 17 touchdowns in total. Multiply that, you get 102. Tyreek Hill, hey man, he's a bad man. A lot of people try not to put him up there as the best receiver top, or because he, isn't as flashy. He's just fast. But I mean, hey, that's part of being a skilled receiver, is getting past the guys in secondary, getting into the open spots. He's always open half the time too. Especially when he's crossing the field. My goodness, because they're trying to watch Travis Kelce and he gets over there, and Patrick Mahomes being top 2 quarterbacks in the league. Hey, this team is going to be hard to beat for a long time. All right. Top 3. Who's better than all the people I've named so far? You guys are feeling the pressure. I don't think you're going to have my top 3, especially not in this order. We'll see. Number 3, my fellow Aggie, came out of Texas A&M, drafted in 2014 in the 1st round because he is that guy. Just got his first Super Bowl ring because he's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans. Yes, Mike Evans, someone who's been in the league since 2014 and has over 1,000 yards every year. Has had 3 years of double-digit touchdowns. This past season, he had 13 touchdowns. Crazy. He had 0 fumbles. He didn't lose the ball once, but was in the end zone 13 times. Over 1,000 yards, 70 receptions on 109 targets. Had Tom Brady as his quarterback, so of course that makes it a little bit easier. But man, I mentioned it twice about guys who go up and get the ball. This is the number 1 Moss man. Not even Moss man, but just you can't get over me. Okay? No one can get over Mike Evans and get the ball if the ball is for both of them to attack. He's 6'5", 231, so of course it's hard to, argue with that, with getting the ball from that guy. But hey, shout out to him. I actually performed with my step team back in college when he came and did a charity event. Man, I was happy to be a part of that. Happy to meet and speak with that guy. But yeah, Mike Evans, top 3. So yeah, don't you get the wrong idea. I think this is me being biased because I like him and we had a connection. But no, that ain't it. I'm just saying, we're talking about elite receivers. Clearly, he has to be in the top 5 minimum, and top 3 for me because I don't think. Well, I know I said Julio isn't washed, but I mean he isn't. Who Julio has been. He's been a little banged up. Had to miss some. Stephon Diggs is great, but he hasn't been as great as long as Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill. Pretty much the same deal. I think Tyreek Hill can beat Mike Evans in the race, but I do not believe he can catch the ball over Mike Evans. You put those two together, you got Mike Evans as the winner. Now, my top two are two that have been going back and forth for the last couple years as the top two. I even had my number two as my number one at one point, and this is probably the first time I'm going to admit the change, and that's because I had to put in more than just my eye test and what I saw. I had to go look at some numbers as well, and that's the only reason why. Number two, DeAndre Hopkins. Sorry, I was about to say Deshaun because I'm thinking of both of them possibly being previous Houston Texans. But no, he was drafted in 2013 to the Houston Texans, and those idiots decided that they were going to give him up for a bag of chips. So he is okay. He went over and played with Kyler Murray at Arizona for 16 games and had 115 catches for 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns. With the Hail Mary catch win in one of the games that, went viral. This right here is actually the reason I stopped myself from saying that Mike Evans was the Moss King, because DeAndre Hopkins is the Moss King. This is the guy that will literally catch it however, any way, one-handed, with his foot, anything, any way possible, over anybody. Mike Evans was just big body, strong, grab it out the air over you. But this is the acrobatic king of catching balls, DeAndre Hopkins. Like I said, it's been argued because I always say he is usually the number one receiver based off of what I see physical ability, which I still believe. But, when we're talking about actual rankings and everything he's done, don't get me wrong, his, since 2013, he's literally had that over 1,000 yards in each season, -1 technically. Okay. He's only missed one game ever. That was last year. 2 games ever that he's had to miss. And he's just got crazy numbers. He's over 10,000 yards in his career. He's going to break a lot of records, man. He's going to break plenty of records. All right? He has to be a little bit safer with the ball. This past season, he did fumble 3 times. That was a little bit tough to watch. But, hey, I think he's in the right place. Arizona's only moving up, man. They're adding pieces. DeAndre Hopkins is not slowing down. It is what it is. Now, number one receiver time you've been waiting on. Clearly, if you watch sports, you know who I'm about to say, because I've said everybody but this person. Out of Fresno State in 2014, picked up in the second round. What a taker. Davante Adams. All right. Yes, Davante Adams on the Green Bay Packers, who has the MVP quarterback. So, of course, this makes it a little bit easier for him. But goodness gracious, if this is the number one receiver, of course he'd get more pressure, right? So not only is he getting more pressured, he was also injured. He only played 14 games. But with all of that said, he still has some crazy numbers. 115 catches in those 14 games for over 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns, y'all. 18 touchdowns. Where they do that at? How did they let him in the end zone 18 times in only 14 games? No receiver has more than 15 except for him. It's just unstoppable. His yards a game are 98.1. He has 98.1 yards a game because he only played in 14. You telling me this guy averages 100 yards a game, gets in the end zone a minimum of 1 a game because, 18 in the regular season? My good, hold on. Let's see how many scores he had this season. How many points it's the most points he's ever had in any season. Being that he has 18 receptions, he has 108 points. Okay, 108 points he gave to this team this season. The next closest that he did in the season was in 2016 when he had 12 receiving touchdowns and had 74 points. Oh, I'll take that back. 13 in 2018, so he had 80. Okay, so he beat that by 28 points that he was responsible for creating to help this team be how great they were. But yeah, hey, Davante, I've always put you number 2. I had to give you number 1. You did your thing, your whole career, but definitely this past season with Aaron Rodgers and how far you guys came and the adversity you came over. But good job, guys. But that's it, man. That's your top 20. All right. I'll give it to you one more time so you can hear it in the order. Number 20, Adam Thielen. 19, George Kittle. 18, Allen Robinson. 17, Antonio Brown. 16, Darren Waller. 15, A.J. Brown. 14, Amari Cooper. 13, Tyler Lockett. 12, Chris Godwin. 11, Justin Jefferson. Top 10. 10, Michael Thomas. 9, DK Metcalf. 8, Travis Kelce. 7, Odell Beckham Jr. 6, Julio Jones. 5, Stephon Diggs. 4, Tyreek Hill. 3, Mike Evans. 2, D-Hop. 1, Devontae Adams. Now, like I said before, there's a lot of new rookies coming in the game that try to get added to this list. I can't wait to see what they do, and I know you can't wait too. All right, guys, that's all we got for this segment. We're going to take a quick break and come in for the last one as we discuss a topic that is running hot around the league right now. So, be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. All right. This here is the last segment of the episode today where I will discuss a topic that has been talked about this week amongst analysts and around the league and in barbershops everywhere. All right. So what happened? Pro Football Focus came out with a ranking of receiver cores for each, based off each team, and topping off that chart at number 1 is the Cowboys with their lineup of Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb leading them there. All right. Do I agree or disagree? I'm not going to say to the end, but what I really want to do here is bring a light to what kind of talent we got in this league. Now, remember, I am a former quarterback and former wide receiver. I can pay attention a little bit more to the wide receivers and quarterbacks than any other position on the field. I feel like most people that don't even know much about football or just watching for enjoyment pay attention to those top 2, maybe including the running back as well, more than anything else. All right? This is where you see the ball come from one hand, thrown through the air to the other one, or handed off. Either way, those are the people most watched. Those are the people that get in the end zone the most, right? So most of these people we should be aware of, all right? And I feel like there's a lot of competition out there for these young men. I'm going to get to them later. But let's start off by just not ignoring what's going on elsewhere. For example, the Arizona Cardinals. What? Arizona Cardinals? I mean, yeah, they got D-Hop, who, again, is top 2 receiver in the league. Okay, yes. I haven't heard much about what's going on with Larry Fitzgerald as far as him and being the Hall of Famer he is. Okay? Hall of Fame Larry Fitzgerald, who can still do what he needs to do, as we just saw this past season. He's not jumping off the screen, but very effective. A lot of viral video that's been going on is him running around and trying to get the ball back in time and stuff like that. So clearly he can still move and help his team win. He had a regular 8-8 season, but don't sleep on Christian Kirk. I know we haven't seen enough from him, but Christian Kirk just needs that one moment. And I think this year might be the year. Why? Because they just got A.J. Green, remember? Yes, A.J. Green, top receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals for some years, these past few years. Just was stuck up there with Andy Dalton, not winning any playoff games. Yeah, he's with the Arizona Cardinals now. I mean, he's with D-Hop, true veteran, Christian Kirk, and Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's going to make it happen, man. He has some weapons. They got him some weapons over there. Do not forget that core, man. I know, like I said, of course, they're going based off of information of what have you done for me lately. So maybe that didn't mean much to him with AJ Green and Christian Kirk. But those aren't individuals you want to ignore. All right? I'm telling you, Christian coming out that slot, seams down the field, having some of the longest catching touchdowns in the league these past couple years. Snuck out another Aggie, of course. Yeah, he's out there. Now, I do want to say that I'm naming 3 guys just because, they have 3. But something else you don't want to ignore is someone else, the group that I added with the receivers in my last segment as far as catchers, and that's the tight ends. Which brings me to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have, you want to call him a clown, you want to call him a dance artist. We're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. He's still a number 1 receiver. Regardless, he still gets the job done. And I know you saw Chase Claypool this season. If you didn't, you weren't watching the games. Remember, this is the team that Chase Claypool might have been the number 1 receiver this past season. And this team that went undefeated the longest because of their success. And the reason I wanted to shout out the tight ends is because they have Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron's been doing his thing, even when he was in Indianapolis. This was his first year in Pittsburgh, and he stood out. He was in the end zone plenty of times, okay? And by plenty, I mean 0. But no, he had 91 targets, man, 56 catches this past season. Did his thing in the postseason. He actually, but he was averaging 10 yards a catch. Oh, I'm sorry. He actually had 5 touchdowns this past season, 1 in the playoffs, making it 6. But yeah, big help there. I definitely remember watching, broken plays go to Ebron for, a crazy catch and a first down. All right. He's still good. He's still young. He's 27. He's in what? His prime. We're talking about prime time. We're talking about you're a veteran. You got the years in you. He's not beat up. He's not injured. Okay. So it's going down, right? Another team, no one other than the Kansas City Chiefs, who I just was talking about in the last segment. Like, you got Travis Kelce, the guy who literally can't stay out of the end zone. All right, and that's a tight end. That's just a tight end. On the receiving end, you got the fastest receiver in the game, arguably, in Tyreek Hill. And who do I keep telling y'all not to miss out on? Is Mecole Hardman. You hear his name here and there, but Mecole Hardman, man, that kid got some burners too. I watched him get around people with no issues. Okay? Kansas City Chiefs ain't going nowhere whatsoever. All right? Another team. Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings sound like, oh, well, they left Stephon Diggs. See, they don't have him anymore. So, are they really... yeah, they lost Stephon Diggs, but they got Justin Jefferson. What? The rookie that made it into my top 20. Still got Adam Thielen, who was a monster somehow. I'm not really sure with, their quarterback on what's all going on there, but Adam Thielen somehow was in the end zone 14 times this season, remember? So, he's not doing bad. He's 30. This was a guy that didn't get drafted. Okay? But they were, he's still playing at an elite level. Got Dalvin Cook in the background who catches a lot of balls. So, I want to add him in there. All right? He's the person that comes down the line and get those checkdowns. So, should we add him in the receiver core? I think so. Kirk Cousins throw him the ball more than he hands it off, it seems like. So, don't ignore them. The team playing with arguably the best quarterback in the league just won MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Someone else that has an amazing running back who catches the ball a lot, Aaron Jones. But on top of that, he also has tight end help that it helped a lot this season in Jay Sternberger. Robert Toyin, I believe, is a starter, but They switch those guys out. They play them both. You got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's going hard out there. Devontae Adams, unstoppable, number 1 receiver in the game. Allen Lazard, their number 2 receiver. Do they not get a say so? And who's the top of the top? Who's the best of the best? And another team. No one other than the Super Bowl champions. What? Who got everybody back? Okay? We're talking about Tom Brady throwing it to no one other than Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette coming out the backfield. Again, I know we're talking about receiver cores, but I'm talking about where they're throwing the ball, period. All right? But Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller made a name for himself this year. O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate at tight end, along with Rob Gronkowski, making up possibly the best tight end trio. Come on, man. That one, I believe, is definitely the closest one for argument. All right? Like, come on. Mike Evans, who was in my top. Chris Godwin, who was in my top. Rob Gronkowski, who was only outside of it because he came back chilling. He still was scoring all in the postseason, all in the Super Bowl. Scotty Miller, someone who says he could beat Tyreek Hill in a race. We definitely saw him outrun people in his game versus Green Bay, that's for sure. But they said that, Pro Football Focus came out and said, no, it's number 1, Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott throwing it to out of the backfield sometimes, Ezekiel Elliott. Number 1 receiver, Amari Cooper. Number 2 receiver, CeeDee Lamb. And number 3 receiver, Michael Gallup. At tight end, I don't know. You want to mention Blake Jarwin? And I have a good buddy of mine who's a Cowboy fan. I'm pretty sure everyone has at least one good buddy Cowboy fan because they literally exist in every space somehow. But yeah, he's talking about if they were to get, somebody skill level that falls to them, even though everyone knows they need some help on defense more than anything. But he said there's certain talents you can't pass up. That talent being a specific tight end out of Florida that I know they're not going to get. But that would be what he would like to see as a number 4 option, who could definitely end up being the number 1 option, playing with Dak Prescott, which, by the way, I haven't mentioned, but Dak Prescott's looking good, man. They had some film of him doing some workouts, throwing the ball on the field, taking some snaps. He's getting there, right? But yeah, hey, I mean, if you want my opinion, I cannot argue too much with what they're saying here. I mean, like I said, Amari Cooper is the best receiver. He's someone that's quiet with it, if you ask me. But he did have 92 catches, over 1,000 yards, over 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns this past season. They had a struggling season, so could those numbers have looked different if Dak stayed in it, was healthy, and, made things happen? Quite possibly. Well, could we have seen him do more if they made it to the playoffs? Quite possibly. Is this look the best on paper? Yes. On paper, when you compare the quarterback, the running back, the history of each player individually, Cowboys is that team. Now, I think they ranked them number 1 because, like I said, you had players that surprisingly stood out of, more than usual. I don't want to say more than ever, but more than usual in players such as Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup, he's been surprising some people lately. And by lately, I mean just, the last 2 years. He just came in the league in 2018 out of Colorado State. And didn't really do much his rookie year, but then kind of kicked it up in his, sophomore year in 2019. Played in 14 games, so missed 2, 66 receptions, over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's a good average year, when it comes to a guy, especially someone that wasn't like a first round, highly expected or anticipated player. But he, this past season had a few less yards and only 5 touchdowns. But again, could that at all change if you had a different quarterback and a playoff season? Yes. So I think everyone's going to try their best to give their faith to the Cowboys yet again for one more season. I think they're only going to get one more that we're really going to believe that, like, hey, you guys got a chance. Because, you got Dak Prescott coming off this injury, motivated with his pockets. You got Ezekiel Elliott, who, we haven't heard much from, but I think a lot of us are hoping that he's getting right, is going to come back slimmer maybe. A lot of people like to talk about his weight, and a little focused, really focused actually. Amari Cooper, you're not going to hear much from him, but he's a solid number 1 receiver as of right now. CeeDee Lamb's made some incredible catches this past season and just made a name for himself ever since the draft night, even with this little phone issue that went viral and everybody's talking about. But the only thing I didn't like was that, I feel like he wasn't used enough. He should have definitely had a 1,000-yard season. He did have 74 receptions, but only was able to get 935 yards, 5 touchdowns. Okay? But he's definitely on his way. With those numbers right there alone, on the season that I just mentioned, he didn't get to no playoff play, and he didn't get to be with his quarterback, his starting quarterback, the whole season. But he's a young guy, 21 years of age. Matter of fact, his birthday's tomorrow. He turns 22. Sorry, I'm recording this on the 7th, in case you didn't know. So when you guys hear this on the 8th, it'll be CeeDee Lamb's birthday. So happy birthday, CD. But yeah, Cowboys have a solid core. Now, again, like I said, let's make the argument. Let's compare with somebody that got to keep their number 1 quarterback the entire season, and that being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, Tampa Bay Buccaneers just won the Super Bowl mainly because they had Tom Brady at quarterback and skilled players all around them, and one of the top 2 most elite defenses to ever come in that division for sure, let alone the NFL. All right? So, my boy Mike Evans alone is top 5 receiver in the league, and his history tells you that he is. Okay? But yeah, he has, over 1,000 yards this season, 13 touchdowns, 70 catches. That's great. Chris Godwin, someone that they want to keep so badly, and he wanted to stay so badly that they came up with a little franchise tag deal. He's still there. He only played in 12 games and had 840 yards, 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns in 12 games. Okay? 65 catches. I just said Mike Evans had 70, so he only had 5 less than him, and he didn't play the whole season. He's getting healthy. He'll be back. He'll hopefully get to play a whole season. What will happen with Chris Godwin playing an entire season? Think about it. All right? Now, with injuries came about, Scotty Miller got to have him a little play time, right? So he got to play in the games. Nothing crazy. But he still had 3 touchdowns. Okay? 3 touchdowns on his season. He was able to contribute. Bowling Green came out of Bowling Green in 2019. How'd they find this guy in the 6th round? I don't know. But dang, he's fast. I don't know where they clocked him. I'm pretty sure he ran a 4.4 or something around there. So that gets his name some recognition. But yeah. And then, like I said, I don't think there's anyone more trustworthy on this team to Tom than Rob Gronkowski. He's proved it time in and time out. Shoot, he probably even did it in 2019 when he wasn't even playing. Tom, if Rob got on the field without working out that whole year and just suited up while he was with New England in 2019 and got in the game, I think Tom Brady would still threw it to him. And I think he would still made a catch in the end zone and still scored. So like I said, he came in this season, he pretty much played the same way he played before he left in 2018. And that was with less games, because he had 13 games in 2018 before he left. He played all 16 games. I don't even know if he played them fully, but he was there for 16 games. With Tampa Bay, both having in the 45 range for receptions. Both of them having 600 yards on the year, averaging 13 to 14 yards a catch. But he had way more touchdowns than he did in 2018. He had more than he did in 2016 when he was younger. Shoot, he even had more than he did in 2013 when he was in his prime. Okay, 7 touchdowns. And don't forget the playoff. That's just in the season. Okay? I didn't even mention playoffs. But clearly we know that they did stuff in the playoffs, and him and Brady got to mock poor Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl by throwing him multiple touchdowns there. So I'm bringing this up because I think literally, matter of fact, I didn't even listen to anyone else's take, to be honest. I heard this, and I didn't want to listen to anyone else's. I'm going to go listen to them now and see what everybody else is talking about, if anyone's agreeing with me. But I think you can argue that Tampa Bay has the better. Because like I said, that yes, you want to go off of history and maybe a few stats on the individual player. But when you're talking about the receiving core, the receiving position is a dependent position. As I've said before, it's a dependent position. None of the players I've mentioned today, meaning in all my other segments, wouldn't have the name they have, the numbers they have, if one, they weren't on the team they're on, because, you know, the teams make a difference based off of the personnel they use, who's their OC, who's the head coach, if he's an offensive coach or a defensive coach, because that's going to decide what type of schemes and plays that they're going to run, right? So, but that's just the deepest part of it. You come more to the surface, now it's the quarterback. They're dependent on the quarterback, who the quarterback chooses to throw it to, meaning like, you know, who's their favorite, who they're most dependent. Like I said about Odell Beckham Jr., Baker trusts him so much, that's why, you know, they would have tough seasons or tough games because he'll try to force it sometimes, but then when Odell unfortunately got injured, he got to spread it out a little bit more. He got to clear up his mind, right? But we're talking about Tom Brady, who is the GOAT. I have to say it. I'm somebody that was a previous Brady hater. There we go. Mainly because I was just like, somebody has to beat this guy. I'm somebody that's a team player, so I like everybody to have the will. But of course, if you were a New England fan, you didn't care about that. You wanted all of the glory for yourself, you selfish people. But yeah, man, hey, Chris Godwin, look, me and Chris are the same age. Chris Godwin is unstoppable. I like that kid. Mike Evans, me and Mike got history, and he went to my alma mater. Man, you go, man. Scotty Miller, I like kids with heart. Somebody that say he could beat the fastest receiver in the league. Man, go ahead with your bad self. Even with the running backs, man. Leonard Fournette coming out of LSU, strong and boys. They kept him for another year. And Rob, hey, look, old man Rob can just keep sitting in the end zone and just catching the ball over people. They just can't stop him for some reason, no matter how old he gets. But that's really just the topic that I decided to pick because I thought that was really interesting that the Cowboys got number one after they kind of let us down last year. You know, star asterisk because their quarterback did get injured, but that division was looking terrible from the get anyway. But going into this next season, I thought that was interesting that the Pro Football Focus definitely, you know, marked them at number one. Having CeeDee Lamb probably helps them a lot. That kid definitely showed so much heart, and Michael Gallup is someone that, you know, hadn't really been disappointing us the way we thought he would, and has the opportunity to be a great help on this team as Dak comes back, of course. Don't sleep on him, is what I'm saying. But I think on my personal list, I think they'd be a solid number two. I think I still would go Tampa Bay 1 as far as receiver core, and then Cowboys. But hey, let me know what you think. I love to hear you guys' comments and your feedback as always. You know, this is the GSMC Football Podcast on the GSMC Network, and we love hearing from you guys. You know, subscribe, leave your comments, give me feedback on me personally, on information. I don't mind criticism. I'm just trying to get better here for sure. Okay, also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, GSMC_football. All right, but thank you. Good morning, good evening, good night. Whatever time you're watching it, farewell. All right, everyone have a great day, a great week. I'll talk to you guys in a couple days. All right, I'm out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.